jumping into the Gravity Sketch keynote session. And for this, well, we were really thinking about like how and why and what did we wanted to actually communicate to you guys. And we think the most important message today to share is that we're really in this, and the thing that keeps driving us is communication. So it sounds like something very simple, and it maybe not, doesn't sound like, oh, these kind of like VR crazy creation software and so on, but that's truly the most important thing that we are doing here. So Shay and I are designers ourselves. We have been through the struggles of having a three-dimensional idea in our heads and not being able to communicate it or express it in the most intuitive or quick way possible. So, not being able to communicate it to ourselves, but also not being able to communicate it to others that might speak a different language, that might understand the world in a different way. And so, over the years, as humans, we have always been visual beings. We navigate through the world visually. We understand it visually. We see the trees changing every season, and we know which season it's going to be. We know that the sky is changing, and maybe it's going to rain or not. We have been depicting ideas since the beginning of time through visual communication. We can see it in the caves, later on with hieroglyphics, later on with perspective drawing. But in a way, those ideas, those ways for us to communicate have always been through 2D mediums, because that has been the thing that we have available to actually create and to express ourselves. Later on, it's, like very later on from when like humans appeared on Earth, we started using written and spoken language as well. But if you think about it, that's like written and spoken language is very, very young compared to how long we've been on Earth, how long we have been communicating visually. So our true nature is to visually say things, to visually understand each other. That being said, through 2D mediums, usually we end up having a lot of miscommunication, having to support ourselves with other mediums, having to do a lot of other work so that everybody else can be part of the same conversation. So for Gravity Sketch, we know that we are 3D humans in a 3D world navigating around 3D objects, and the best way possible to communicate is through 3D communication. And so this all sounds very nice, but what is it that we're actually doing about it? How are we kind of like keeping progressing the way that we communicate through Gravity Sketch and through the tools that we're implementing? So for this, I would love to welcome Shay and Daniel. Shay, our co-founder and CEO, and Daniel, our co-founder and CTO, on stage so that they can continue talking about the things that we're doing. Something really exciting.
Hey everyone, thanks Danny. Thanks community. It's like such an amazing opportunity to have this event again this year. I was rewatching stuff from last year and just blown away. So yeah, really excited to be back here again this year.
Yeah, I guess I say something too. I don't know. It's so awesome to see the lineup of speakers we have. I can't wait to see what everyone's going to talk about and share and really learn more about how people are adopting 3D in all different kinds of ways and learning to speak and create in 3D.
Nice. So Shay, you have something. It has been out for a little while, but not everyone knows about it, and it's a good opportunity for everyone to learn about it and to see what are some of the benefits that this new feature or this new kind of like implementation has.
Yeah, absolutely. So for the longest, we've been working with a lot of you guys out there, and also we've been working with a few pretty large organizations and helping them understand how to transition to a 3D first workflow, a digital 3D first workflow, I should say. And one of the things that we get all the time is like, I just don't know what that person's seeing in VR, or like, I want to show this person what I'm seeing. It comes up so often that it became like almost like, I don't know, impossible to go to a meeting without having someone request some way of casting outside of the traditional casting that the platforms offer us, whether it be an Oculus or screen on Steam or something like this. So we decided to do something ourselves and bring together the screen and the virtual reality environment to create almost like a hangout space where you can have reviews, discussions, collaborate, and continue to work. So this is what we're currently calling, it's a tag name right now, is Screen Collab. Still, like, the formal name is still undefined. We did a bit of a soft launch not too long ago, but this is available to every single community member and every single customer of ours. And it allows you to bring someone from the screen into your 3D environment. You could stay in the screen yourself as well. So you can be screen to screen, VR to screen, and you can put multiple people in there. And we're starting to see teams using this in place of doing PowerPoint presentations. And you'll see why in just a moment here. I'm going to share my screen here. Daniel actually spearheaded this initiative, so I'm sure he'll have loads to say about this as well. But this is how the environment looks. I'm kind of getting in there. There's plenty of videos on YouTube, and we'll produce more to help people figure out how to set one of these spaces up. But this is a classic Gravity Sketch room environment that we've made. You can click with your mouse or touchpad and just drag around the space. And I'm actually going to close this window here. You should see it kind of works at full screen like this. You'll notice that the name of the room is at the bottom here. You also have a mute button. So this actually can work in replacement of a Teams or a WebEx or a Zoom if you're just reviewing some design work and giving some feedback. And I'll talk about this other button here, as well as some of these features here. But first and foremost, you can just click and drag around the space. Now, let's say you're a non-creative, or you want to invite someone that's non-creative into the environment. Maybe someone from marketing team, or someone you purely want to consume one of your sketches or one of your creations from a certain vantage point. Well, you can use your viewpoints in VR, and you can set them up and they'll populate here in the screen collaboration environment. And so the user can click here and be taken straight to a viewpoint, and you can navigate with the arrows to go through different viewpoints, pretty much turning this into a 3D or a spatial PowerPoint presentation. Once you're at a viewpoint, you can click, and you can obviously break the kind of lock to the viewpoint. You can double click and you kind of frame up the environment that you're in. And you can also jump to a viewpoint here and maybe leave a comment. So we have a couple of viewpoints here that have comments on them, and I'll show you how to leave comments. But here's a comment here. This is great. Not very informative, but you can hover over a couple of comments here, and just giving a bit of context. And Max left a comment here. So I have these commenting tools here. So if I want to comment, I can just drag a little dot out, and I can say too large. And that comment is now saved there with my name against it. I can also grab this little pencil here, and I can sketch out maybe a new contour that I want to see developed here, or maybe I want this to be more of a high top, or a higher high top, let's say. And so now those comments are attached to the viewpoint, meaning that the person in VR consumes them from the same vantage point. So they're not 3D geometry, it's just geometry that's set on top of this viewpoint and can be consumed. And they disappear as soon as you break the rotation. And you can just continue kind of flipping through this environment. I saw that Daniel just joined the room. You saw his VR headset floating around here. And so if I click on the people, a little icon here that populates below, and you can see that I'm here on the screen, Daniel's here in VR, and I can pin myself to Daniel's view to see what Daniel's seeing. And yep, here's Daniel. So now I want Daniel to make some of those adjustments that I just pointed out. So I'm going to click on my laser pointer down here. I'm kind of wanting him to do a little something in here where maybe we change the arch of the shoe. So
I don't know if I've got the. I'm going to ruin this poor shoe. Yeah, hold on. What are you thinking? Give me some clear instructions here.
Yeah, give it some bulge there. Perfect. Yeah, so we can go straight into edit mode. Yeah, and he can start pulling things around. So this is really a collaborative experience as well. So Daniel could be the presenter, or he could be someone I'm directing from the screen. And at the moment, I'm in Germany and Daniel's in the UK. So it's working from around the globe, and you can work in distributed teams, for example, and collaborate in real time without going away, kind of consuming some of the feedback and then trying to recreate it later. So this is really the real power and potential of the platform here. We've kind of set up this crazy environment where you have lots of interesting shoes and some renders on the walls and things like this inside of a spatial environment. However, just working with an isolated model like this also is really, really potent and powerful. You don't necessarily need to set up a presentation if you don't wish to. we just want to show that this can be used in a variety of flexible ways. We have some of our customers that are using this with the professional CAD modeler. So they've done the first model in Gravity Sketch, loose, rough model, just getting out the inspiration. And then the CAD modeler can jump in, they can have a rich discussion, and they can walk away from that meeting with a very clear understanding of what to do. You can import your images, import your Gravity Sketch files. Essentially, Daniel is in the native Gravity Sketch environment, so he can do just about anything he wishes. I see Jaren just jumped in, so let's follow Jaren and see what Jaren's looking at. Sees Daniel out there. This is a great way as well to stream. So you can also join if you are already in VR. So I can join from my headset as well, and I'll have double login, but it'll just show myself in VR and myself from the screen. Great. And I guess if we just talk a little bit about why we're doing this and what our thesis is about doing something like this, well, we just feel like creating in 3D initially has been a isolated situation. You're kind of by yourself developing your idea, and then you kind of crescendos at this moment where you want to share it. And we find sometimes you don't share things at every stage of the design journey or every stage of the creative journey. You tend to like wait until like the opportune moment. Whereas if you can send a link over, someone could just jump in either synchronously or asynchronously, leave some feedback. It can be more of a fluid working process, similar to how you post some of your sketches up on a board, a mood board, and someone can walk by that mood board and leave a comment or potentially take a snapshot and go back to their Photoshop and tweak or edit a design and try to create more of a live design environment, more of a live design collaboration experience, as well as transitioning more towards having these collaborative sessions or these review sessions in a 3D spatial environment from the onset. Because 9 times out of 10, you're going into a Zoom meeting and you're sharing a screen, you're sharing a PowerPoint presentation or some sort of PDF. Then you're walking away from there, you're having a bunch of asynchronous conversations. Then you're going back and tweaking and kind of ends up in this vicious cycle. And at the end of the day, you lose a lot of time. And so the design is compromised. And what we're trying to do is get closer and closer to like one source of truth. And the best source of truth is to have everything captured completely in 3D. But I'd love to ask Daniel a little bit about some of the challenges that you faced when you were spinning up this project for the first time.
Challenges in this project. I think, I don't know, I think the most difficult thing about the Screen app is really understanding all of the different ways and kind of use cases that kind of people, what am I trying to say? Basically, to really build a Screen app that we're trying to build that makes sense, we really have to understand the actual workflow and the job, like the daily day-to-day job that people are doing when they're doing design work. Like, you know, at what points in their workflow do they want to show this to one of their colleagues? At what points in the workflow do they need feedback? At what points do they want their room to be private so that no one can jump in and see things that aren't ready or finished and this kind of thing? And so it's also different on an industry by industry basis as well. This is obviously a very footwear setup room, but we're hoping that all different kinds of industries can get value out of a tool set like this. But it's more than just like, but when you're looking at design reviews, it really is like, you've really got to understand the full flow and the journey that this kind of like idea and communication of this idea that's going between a company really deeply. And I think that was the hardest thing, making features that actually make sense in workflows, not just features that, I don't know, we thought sounded cool or something like that.
We have a question.
What are your thoughts? Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Shay.
Well, I was just going to ask Daniel about his thoughts on like the next stages with this. This is obviously V1. Would love to hear a little bit about how you're thinking about V2, or how we're thinking about V2. I think you've taken a lot of feedback from across the company as well as some of the customers, and it'd be great to kind of share with the folks online what's coming next for this platform.
Yeah, I mean, so I think when we built this, the real thing that we were thinking about the most was like a very synchronous session where there would be multiple people in the same room working together at the same time. Maybe they're in VR and maybe on a computer screen. And that's one of the reasons why we called it Screen Collab, is it was kind of like an extension of our collaboration feature, but on a computer screen. But I think what we've realized is so many of the workflows that people do are actually asynchronous. Like, you know, we don't have to be in the room at the same time to work together. And so I think a big focus of where we're going next is to make it I guess to build out and to make workflows that make sense, where you just, you send your colleague a link and say, hey, can you review this design for me? And they can maybe go through some views that you've set up, or set up their own ones, and kind of build some feedback and an understanding of that model without you being there to guide them. And so give you the tools to present or show them, what you want to be reviewed, but also kind of give them the tools to communicate when you're not in the room, when you don't have voice chat, for example, to cover it. Figure out how we can help people communicate and collaborate in that non-real-time way, rather than in this very real-time focused way that we've built so far.
One of the big feedbacks that we've gotten is about the commenting system. And what I've learned is that there's so many different ways to give feedback. And so we have sketching, commenting, we have note commenting. How do you think the evolution of the commenting system is going to work over time? Or what's going to happen next for this?
Yeah, so I think based on what I was just saying, I think the biggest problem we have right now is we kind of only have sticky notes. There isn't really any kind of comment system. And so the real next evolution, at least in the short-term future, is to actually build more of a comment system and a collaborative system that lets people actually, mention and notify and kind of draw people in to this workflow, rather than kind of just leaving things there for people to discover or find. So hopefully, you will be able to set it up so you get an email notification when Shay's come in and reviewed my design, or you'll be able to tag whoever gave you the feedback and understand who gave you that feedback, and have a conversation around it all within the application, rather than having to go to something external and use a different set of tools for that. We've definitely found that often in so many workflows right now, people are really used to using 2D and images to do this kind of collaboration. But it can be really time consuming to take loads of screenshots out of Gravity Sketch, do loads of reviews in another platform, bring that feedback back into Gravity Sketch, make your modifications, and then take all the screenshots back out again. And so we're really trying to double down on giving people the tools they need to do that communication and collaboration while it's still a 3D model, without having to move out and use something like Figma or Miro, or the kind of image or 2D based collaboration platforms.
Yeah, one of the, I guess, a couple of things that I've been really excited about. So kind of my wish list here are voice notes, as well as like a kind of an autoplay button. So essentially, if you're to asynchronously share this with someone, they can just click play, and it just takes them through a timed staging of the viewpoints. So it almost serves as a little mini presentation with some audio commentary. But there's loads. I have had loads of imaginative ideas. I think the most important message is that we're building this as a serious part of how we can evolve and grow the platform. And to Daniela's point on the theme of communication, designers aren't designing for designers. They're designing for everyone. And so everyone needs to participate in the conversation. The earlier they can participate, the more successful the design outcome can be. So with that, I think that kind of concludes the presentation, unless there's some key questions in the chat that we want to pull
We have
out.
a few questions. You already answered one, Shay, like voice notes. Well, they said that having voice notes would be amazing. Is this cloud-based so that they can access it through the browser? No, you have to download an app.
Not browser-based at the moment.
Maybe Daniel can speak.
Daniel, you want to? Yeah, Daniel, browser-based.
Well, yeah, I mean, we would absolutely love this to be browser-based, but basically our whole technology stack, geometry engine, everything that we've built so far was built in, well, at least of the actual rendering side of things, is built in the game engine Unity. And while they do have a web export, it has quite a few limitations that mean we can't currently deploy it through a web browser in a way that will actually run smoothly or work in real time and this kind of stuff. And so if anyone from Unity is watching, please get in touch. We would absolutely love to get through some of these barriers that are blocking us. This application is perfect for deployment through a web browser. But currently there's just a few blockers that mean we just can't do it right now. But it's not through lack of willpower or wanting to. And so one day it might make it to browsers, but right now we're having to prototype it in a downloadable form. Yeah, one day.
Yeah, so there was another question. Is it possible to collaborate without a headset? That's the goal for this tool, so that you can collaborate without having to have a headset. So at the beginning, maybe you missed it, but at the beginning, Shay was kind of pointing at things and sketching over some of the things so he could comment on it. Can I use this now? Yes, for sure. You can use it now. You can download it in landing pad. Yeah, is there any special painting tool for sketching in Gravity Sketch? Or only the gaming controllers? Only the controllers.
Unfortunately, just the controllers for now. That's another big wish list of mine. We have the iPad app out. However, that was like kind of 6 months of as much work as possible as we can fit into that time period. So we didn't have time to really give it another pass. We'd love to get back to screen creation at some point in the future, but our resources are extremely limited. So there may be an opportunity in time where this starts to bring some of those elements in. But again, the more usage that we get from the community, the more feedback we get from y'all, it will really inform the direction that we take these products.
Are there any limitations for the room, like in terms of how many like objects you can have in there, how many people can go in there, similar to how it is in VR?
I mean, it's still based on the power of the device that's kind of looking into the scene and that kind of thing. And so there's always going to be it's always going to be possible to build a scene that a computer just can't render. But what we've generally found is that it performs just about as well as the headsets already perform. So if you have a standalone Quest, probably your average Mac will do just fine rendering the same scene and handling the same kind of amount of geometry. Definitely, if you have like a really powerful desktop VR setup and try and view that from, you know, a very not very powerful machine, it might struggle. But generally, we've seen it handle it pretty well. One good thing about it is that in VR, if it lags, it's a really terrible, uncomfortable experience. But on a computer screen, 30 frames a second or something like that still looks smooth enough to be very usable. And so, yeah, I don't know. It's definitely one for people to explore, and it would be great to hear about feedback and even trouble people are having loading some rooms and what kind of hardware they're using, and that kind of thing. But in general, we've seen pretty good performance out of it.
And so right now, someone without a license in a corporate environment, someone without a license can join the collab space, or do they need a license?
Yeah, so
I think that really depends. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Maybe Shay can answer better than me.
Well, I think it just depends. If they're a customer of ours, a lot of our customers have security concerns, and so it can just be anyone that jumps in. They'd have to still go through the admin. That's mainly because the majority of our customers are pretty top secret about the work they're developing. But we have plenty of people that are using it in the community for their business work, and that's totally fine. It's just up to the level of security that you think is necessary for the project that you're working on.
Cool. All right. And well, as Shay started kind of like his talk about this, was that we have been listening for years now about like people wanting to join these collab spaces without necessarily wearing a headset. And that means that we're always listening, we're always talking to the community, to our users, to our customers. Everything that has gone into Gravity Sketch has come from these conversations that we've had with you guys. And so for the next section of this session, it would be great to kind of like introduce Will and Charlotte, who are going to be talking about some of the experimental work. Maybe Daniel, you want to give a bit of an intro on, why do we do all of this and how?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Gravity Sketch, I think the really important thing in my mind has never specifically been about VR or the metaverse or the technology that we're using right now. The kind of meaning and mission behind it, getting people to speak and communicate and create in 3D, is totally separate to the hardware. And so we've had a very long journey of different hardware over the years, from literally in-house homemade hardware called the landing pad. Not the landing pad that's the website, but something totally different. There's a TEDx talk out there if you want to go find it. To the iPad, to VR, and even VR is now really starting to evolve and kind of change in terms of like the ecosystem we're playing in and what people are capable of. We jumped on board when they first added the motion tracked controllers to the headsets, like the HTC Vive and the Oculus CV1, because that let you really get your actual body and movements and like the emotion and the way that you move into VR, which was a really, really powerful part an evolution of that technology. But these days, we're starting to see all kinds of really exciting stuff come out. I personally think pass-through is a really amazing technology. It's really cool to see, like, while AR headsets haven't kind of really become a reality yet in a way that's really useful in our world, being able to design and work in scale in the real world, with all of these digital tools is super exciting and powerful. The Quest Pro was a really cool and exciting addition to the kind of arsenal, because it's one of the first VR headsets that we've seen that's primarily for like professional work rather than being considered a gaming device or a games console. And that's a really exciting thing, just to see the industry start to see this hardware in the metaverse as, real productivity spaces, and see people using it for the way they work, and this kind of thing. But yeah, I think also on the back of what Shay was just saying, like what we have realized is that we don't really want to spend our entire lives in VR either, and having a VR headset on all the time isn't the most comfortable way to work. And so really trying to build, valuable and useful tools outside of being in a VR headset, whether it's, the kind of collaboration tools that we're looking at today, to more creation tools and going back to some of our roots in terms of drawing on a screen and this kind of thing. There's all sorts of kind of really exciting things that we want to build and kind of bring together in the future. Yeah, and I think our attitude has always been to like just explore and try things out and do really crazy things and iterate and get the world and the designers and the community to help us understand whether it's valuable rather than assuming too much. And that's often why you'll see a lot of I don't know, rough around the edges features and experimental stuff, tool belt to name one, and I'm sure there's many others that I probably haven't even given the right amount of time and support to, but I don't know, the mindset there is not to release bad products and bad features, but to grow and learn with the community and explore and being experimental. And so what I believe I'm doing now is I'm setting up Will and Charlotte, who are going to come, who are two of our members of our VR team, who work on all of the kind of innovative VR stuff that we're doing, who are going to talk about some of our process and things that we do. So I'll leave it to them to tell you what that's all about.
Lovely. Thanks, Daniel. Should we take it from here then? Cool. I guess we should maybe introduce ourselves as well. So I'm Will. I'm part of the engineering team working on the VR team. And Charlotte?
Yeah, so I'm Charlotte. I'm a senior user researcher in GraviSketch, and I'm in the VR team as well. Work really closely with Will and the designers to help make better products based on all the feedback from our customers and from our users in the community as well. Will's just actually sharing. We've put together a little bit of a sort of highlights reel of some of the things that we've tried out within the product team. Some of them are pretty early stage prototypes that really haven't really made it past prototype stage, and just based on bugs and sort of other priorities. Other things are sort of fully fleshed out that that we've sort of researched with with various users. But yeah, we're just excited to show you some of the things that we've been experimenting on.
Yeah, we get the really fun job of showing a lot of the things that kind of don't get released or haven't been released that we just play about with. And I think the first one that we're starting with is one that Daniel did for Innovation Day. So I'll just start that playing.
Yeah, essentially, Innovation Days are really a sort of one day a month where not just the product team, but anyone in GraviSketch can come together and work alongside the product team to just create these sort of potential features or kind of crazy ideas that may one day end up in the GraviSketch product. So the clip that you're seeing here is coined the Wiggle Brush. It was an Innovation Day project, and it was about, again, like as Danielle sort of talked about, this was really based on feedback from our users and from our customers around what we get a lot of feedback around textile stitching and how we can allow designers to implement that into their workflow. So this was just Daniel sort of playing around with various ways that may look like. And yeah, I suppose it's just this way of understanding the workarounds that our customers and our users are having to do at the minute, and seeing if we can create new innovative ways to make that easier for them to use the product.
Yeah, no, it might. Before we go on it might just be worth also just saying again, just in case, these are prototypes. So that is not out in the app. I don't think that's coming out in the app. I think that was just made in a day or an afternoon, just to kind of explore and maybe respond to like what could a really quick response to like stitching requests be. Yeah, this next one was a prototype created by myself and another engineer in the geometry team called Jonathan. And this, we coined it the animation and interaction system. So this was a pretty comprehensive prototype, actually. It's was a lot of fun to play with, but essentially in your sketch file, you could create animations and buttons saved to the file that other people could open, and they would do things in your sketch, like in this case, turning layers on and off. I think this is another case where Daniel made a little a game from it. So you could basically set up this mini programmatical style thing, all in VR, save to your sketch, and have an animation. And that, like, we found some real interesting use cases for making games like this, or in the previous one for presenting. I think, yeah, and we're gonna see kind of behind the curtain. So I'll just quickly pause here. Like how it worked was putting down some objects that would listen to things, and they would trigger haptics, layers, and you'd wire between them. And we were kind of exploring what that direction could look like. At the time, it was actually with the idea that we could create presentations and tutorials using this system, but for kind of technical reasons, and when we ended up kind of figuring out through this prototype, is that this was a lot more complicated than we thought, and that actually from a tech side, we've gone down a slightly different road for the tutorials and prototyping, which I think you'll see a bit later. But then our next little thing using the animations and interactions is something that one of our QA testers made, Sylvia, which is a bit of fun. So Sylvia, I think, spent a day sitting down, learning the new tools, and basically making this full-on little game using the prototypes, which is a lot of fun. So yeah,
one of Sylvia's other prototypes does feature in this highlight reel as well. So I think that's a good theme.
Yeah. So this was a lot of good fun. Again, another one that we're not releasing anytime soon for some technical reasons, but yeah, a lot of fun to explore. But also, if you have kind of other thoughts of what it could be used for, do do say. So yeah, you can see that. So this next one is a real exception to the majority of them. This one actually will be making it to the app. So in the next release, this will be in. So it's, we hear a lot that people want to make like glass windows on their cars or transparent objects, and they have to have a whole nother layer that's just for their windows or just for their transparency. And each one needs a different transparency level, which is really frustrating. So we thought, what if we just added transparency as a slider on the color wheel? And so myself and another engineer who's not here anymore spent some time prototyping with this, and we're not 100% happy with the placement of it, or like I think it's not perfect, but we were happy enough for it to go out. So it's going to be a beta feature. So in the next time Gravity Sketch releases, if you go to the beta panel, you'll find a transparency slider toggle that on, and then you'll have per object transparency. So yeah, that's a good bit of fun. Yeah. Skip ahead to the next one, which I think, I'll hand over to Charlotte.
Yeah, so this was I think another Innovation Day project made by one of our engineers in the VR team, Jonathan. So yeah, probably about half a day's work, which is amazing that the level of usability that we see here. But essentially, it's sort of allowing you to use the stroke tool and create a free-form sub-D creation. So you can use the stroke tool, apply sub-D, and it sort of uses that sort of merchant cubes algorithm most used in Voxel engine. So again, it's very much in a prototype. It works really well in some instances, not so well in others, which is sort of why it's not going to be in any sort of releases coming up. But it's something that will definitely be again, as Will said, if anyone has any feedback or any sort of thoughts, please do feel free to put them in the chat, and we'd be happy to hear those. And I think, our next, the next one is going on to another Innovation Day project that was actually created by one of our user researchers, Thomas. So this, I suppose, the brief for Thomas's Innovation Day was how might we stimulate form creativity in VR. Essentially, this uses sort of generative algorithm and draws sort of multiple threads to try and cling to a surface. And you can see sort of how it's been used on a shoe last year. Lots of randomization. Again, you'll see in a couple of seconds or so, there are some bugs when it gets to sort of real tighter geometry. In this little clip, you'll see where those bugs are. But again, it's just sort of these kinds of projects are just ways in how we can generate more creativity for our customers, really. Again, not something that's probably going to be making it into the app anytime soon, but something that we'll continue to play around with and see if we can improve the overall UX of it, I guess.
Yeah, and I think again, I think this was made in a day or something. So there's some there's some real rough stuff to it when you use it. But just that really quick iteration and discovery is something that we do a lot of. And then here we go. I guess I can maybe introduce this one. It's a bit of a big one, this. So again, this isn't technically a prototype. Actually, maybe this first one is, but this was a project which I think is out now and going to be in stores. So on if you use the Quest, you may see there being some demos, or if you go to like a retail store, you'll see that there may be some apps you can try out. Like you can go and play a bit of Beat Saber before you buy a Quest. And we were approached and decided to take part in this and create a little experience that someone can try out using Gravity Sketch before they actually buy the headset or go through. And we also went at this with the same prototype and iterate approach. And what you're seeing here is our very first prototype that we tried for this. So it kind of again walks you through drawing a little guide, drawing a 2D, getting you used to the stroke tool. Which we found a lot of fun, but actually this is a really good example of where we've learned so much from testing with users. And I guess maybe Charlotte, you're probably best to speak more to that.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, as Will mentioned, this was version 1, and essentially the flow of this prototype taught users the sort of basics of Gravity Sketch. So things like how to use the ink tool, how to change color, how to undo. And we sort of then applied those skills to this lovely creation that you're sort of seeing on your screen. And then we sort of thought, well, users of Gravity Sketch, they're so creative. They're going to want this freestyle time to create and explore the space, and that's what sort of you can see here as an example of the prototype. We ended up taking this prototype to test with roughly about 10 brand new Gravity Sketch users, so they'd never used Gravity Sketch before. Some had interacted with headsets before, but primarily they were very much new to Gravity Sketch. And I think what you'll see now in a few seconds here, starting now, is this is actually the version 2. And you'll see we made quite a lot of changes here. So you'll notice in version 1, we had those little animations that you saw in one of the clips that Will showed earlier, and it came from the controllers. They were attached to the controllers. You'll now see there's little animations in front of the users sitting sort of free in the environment, and that was a lot because new Gravity Sketch users maybe weren't aware of our design system, and so we sort of have to make sure that they're aware of where our instructional content is coming. So you can see an example of how we changed up instructional content based on direct user feedback. I think some of the other things that we learned, just to give you some examples, is that sort of freestyle stage of Gravity Sketch, we realized that people who are traditionally using 2D interfaces to create still have that sort of mindset of sort of having to create and being forced to create in a sort of 2D form. And so when they're given that space in a 3D environment, they're not really getting the value out of the sort of 3D space. So you can see here in the example, we've actually tried to introduce and guide them through creating a very specific object. We chose a chair because it was very easy to sort of showcase that element of 3D. And what we actually found when we tested this prototype, which we didn't find when we tested the first prototype, was users actually physically moving their body around the chair, getting sort of down close, and really interacting physically with the space and really showcasing. And what we found was that users actually got a lot more enjoyment out of this slightly more structured experience, which was really, really surprising to us, because we thought this sort of more freestyle experience would be much better. So I think we learned a lot in this process, and we're sort of continuing to sort of try this process out, and and really, really work with our users to see if we can make much better experiences and much better features and tools within the product.
Yeah, and I think this probably leads us quite nicely on to another prototype that we're working on right now. So we are kind of working on something that makes your first experience of Gravity Sketch a bit smoother. So instead of kind of throwing you in at the lobby and kind of needing to rely on a lot of YouTube resources, we're hopefully going to guide new users and kind of help them understand like how to get going with the basics. I think once we've all used it, we forget actually that some people can find it really difficult at the start. So we saw how well it worked for that stores like demo version, that we thought let's build a version of that, but for new people. So like as a tutorial. So when you're kind of telling your friends to try Gravity Sketch and they get in and they say, oh, I couldn't figure out how to do X, Y, Z, hopefully this will be something that helps them there. And we're using exactly the same iterative approach. And you might notice that a lot of the technology is the same. So this will be coming out at some point. We're prototyping as we speak. Yeah, I'll skip through this a bit. So this sketch, yeah. So we kind of focus in on a motorcycle, and again, we're kind of using this idea of tracing it. Yeah, so you can kind of see here that we're like allowing you to trace the gas tank and then trace the seat. Yeah, and we're having a lot of fun prototyping.
What we found was people get very emotionally attached to their motorcycles, and so if you are going through this experience when it is live, don't worry, your motorcycle will be still there. It will not disappear. So that's something that we found, and I think that's what's great about actually interacting with users and customers and people who love our product, is we can learn from you guys, and that's what we want to do. We want to build this product in a sort of collaborative way with our community. And I think I'll sort of set this up because I want to make sure that we have time for Q&A at the end. But Will and the team have been working really hard to set up what we're calling Gravity Sketch Beta app. And Will, I'll maybe let you sort of explain a little bit more about the app. But essentially, it's a way that we can give people in our community and other customers ways to sort of test new prototypes. Will's just going to show one of those prototypes that is available in the app now. But yeah, Will, I don't know if you want to give more information about the app and how it's going to be run.
Yeah, absolutely. So there may be some people here who've kind of OG Gravity Sketch users who remember the Steam beta from a while back, and that's kind of still going on. But actually, we so many of our users now are using Quest. So like we've lost so many people's like access to easy feedback and trying out these prototypes. And every feature in Gravity Sketch is way better for all the stuff that the community give to us. We never get anything right first time, so we always want your input. So we've actually created an entirely separate Quest beta app, which will sit alongside your normal Gravity Sketch app. But if you sign up, and we've got a link that I think we're going to post in the chat. If you're able to fill in this form and basically consent for the Meta email so that we kind of have permission to put you on these prototypes, then you can try out prototypes that we're working on exactly like this. So this is a selection tool we're working on at the moment. Again, we're still in the prototype phase, but it essentially allows you to add things to your selection and like grab things that aren't next to each other and make edits to them. So all those times where like, oh, I want to grab one thing over here and one thing over there, but there's a lot of other stuff in the way, no longer will you have to play about with the layers. You can just make that edit straight away. Yeah, we're working on that as well. I'll see if I can find working in edit mode as well. So you can start selecting individual points. Of course, it works in sub-D edit mode as well, but it's very much a beta at the moment and a prototype. It's stable enough. We want to give it out to you guys, and we want you to tell us what you think and what we need to improve and what to do better. So yeah, please do click that link and join our like beta users group so that we can so that we can basically have you guys tell us what to make and how to make it.
I've posted the link in the chat section, so anyone at all that sort of wants accessed, not just the selection tool, but this is one of the sort of tests that Sylvia, a member of our QA team, has sort of done on that selection tool. But yeah, not just the selection tool, any other prototypes that will be coming down the track. We'd be really, really keen to collaborate with our community and make the product better.
Nice. Thanks for these guys. And there's some questions for you here. Let me just scroll. So, any plans for working with armatures, bones, and animation breaks in Gravity Sketch? Always comes up.
Yeah, I think it's another thing that like we'd love to do. We've had it a few times, but just the tech to like build armatures and bones like directly in VR and Gravity Sketch is quite a big push. So it's something that like we definitely want to understand better. It's just even we have done some mini prototypes, but it's a hard problem.
Any chances for access to an API SDK to create our own fun generative tools?
Daniel, do you want to take this one?
I mean, yeah, I think that would be absolutely amazing if we had one. It sounds really cool, and the community's creativity and ability to build features and do things is far, far, far going to outstrip our own in terms of resources. I think the really difficult thing is right now we just don't feel ready to commit to something or build something that would actually be stable and wouldn't break all the time, or we wouldn't like. It would be really frustrating if you made a really cool feature and the next update it broke, kind of thing. And so we really need to figure out internally how to find a stable kind of area of our code or way to give people access to do scripting and tools and things like that. It's something that Kay did on one of our innovation days, and it's definitely like we totally want to do it. We're just like basically so strapped for resources, trying to make Gravity Sketch a successful company, so that we can grow and scale and do even more crazy cool things. That we haven't been able to put at the top of our priorities yet. But it's definitely something we totally believe in and think that you guys will make better features than us probably in the long run. It's just a matter of when more than anything.
Any future plans for creating an educational platform where you're able to watch and produce content for other people on that platform and not have to go to YouTube? This is an important one that, I mean, you guys have been working a little bit on it with the onboarding project, right?
Yeah, I mean, we have the in-app videos, which are great, and I think we're working on doing a better job at like showing people towards them, and also like giving them this first experience so that they're like comfortable with just navigating in the space. I don't know that there are any plans for a whole platform of that at the moment. Maybe Daniela, that's something the content team would be thinking about, but nothing from VR team on that at the moment.
I'd say for now we're still exploring what those experiences could even look like, and we're about to release our very first one. And I think if we had a really good idea of what they look like, it would be much easier for us to build tools or help us make them and this kind of thing. But until we even understand what is good tutorial content in Gravity Sketch, it's much harder for us to build any way for you guys to help us or build your own tools and this kind of thing. But in the long run, again, I definitely think that the community helping us is really valuable. One thing we're really missing in VR, if I need, when I try to learn even Unity or Photoshop or any tool I've ever used, usually you can crack open a YouTube tab and learn how to do it in real time, and it's super valuable. And there's so many people producing great content there, and we're definitely missing that in VR right now. And it would be really cool to see how we can get back to that kind of accessible information and this kind of thing.
A more responsive ink tool disabling motion smoothing could be possible. The responsiveness of Quill feels great, and I always felt it's lacking in Gravity Sketch.
As far as I know, on the settings menu, you can turn down or off the motion smoothing. Unless that feature's gone, check the settings menu. It might be the second tab, and there's like a 4-point toggle, and it's like defaults to 3 out of 4 in terms of how much smoothing you get. If you turn it all the way off, you'll get so many control points that it's really hard to work with. But maybe try playing with that first. Unless I'm missing something, I'm pretty sure we have that feature. It's maybe just a bit too buried to find right now.
Cool. This one's for Shay. Well, not for Shay, but like he would like this question. He had to jump out, guys. So is there a way to make the Oscar, the mannequin, height editable for ergonomic studies? Example, 95th percentile, 50th percentile, etc.
We have a mannequin rework ongoing, and it took us like a year or two to realize that our current mannequins are just dramatically wrong in terms of real world human proportions, and so many people using it, we know we really need to solve it. And so we're currently like modeling and building a new set of mannequins that will give much more, like, would be accurate for ergonomics studies basically. But it would definitely be really interesting to hear everyone's feedback on this stuff so that we can kind of tailor our direction for that better. But yeah, I can say with semi certainty that better mannequins and more like human form relevant mannequins are on the way.
Is there any chance to get advanced mirror tool like radial mirror or modified mirror plane?
So I think we have some radial symmetry in the app already, but again, I think there's quite a heavy tech lift there, and there's some real questions of what are all the points at which like people really want what type of mirrors. There's some different like specific use cases. Like we've heard some people wanting like mirrors of a certain style for wheels and of other styles for other things. So yeah, it's definitely things we hear and keep like telling us why and when, so that we can understand that better. But we're not working on anything directly at the moment on that.
Can you talk a little bit about the mixed reality features available for the MetaQuest Pro?
Yeah,
You will.
Yeah,
some of the cool things that you can do with it. I mean, Daniel, I know you love the measuring tape.
Yeah, the pass through on the Quest Pro is really cool. If you haven't tried it, yeah, if you know anyone with the Quest Pro, it's worth just trying it for like turn the pass through. So when you kind of grab your headset off in Gravity Sketch and you go into pass through, yeah, there's some really exciting things we've done as well. Like if you've got two in the same room, which I know it's maybe at the moment quite a tough ask, you can kind of manually line up a collab room together in the same location, be it 1-to-1, and then like you'll be looking across and someone else will be drawing and their avatar will be literally where they really are, and you can use it. Like that's still a bit clunky. We'd love to have like shared spatial anchor support from Meta on that, but yeah, and the measuring tool as well is so much fun. You can just go around your house and measure things and it tells you exactly what length they are. It's very accurate. Yeah, it's great fun.
You also have, I mean, there's something kind of like interesting. It's not necessarily just for the pass through, but now with the MetaQuest Pro, you can use the stylus to sketch on surfaces. And that's quite interesting because then you can, I mean, a lot of people are using it to sketch on the actual table, but then you can sketch on other objects as well and so on. There's so many questions, guys. Can we import our own reference objects, for example, from objects we have modeled in SketchUp? Yes, you can. What about snap tools to get an object from a specific point and snap into another point?
Yeah, we'd actually planned to show a prototype of snapping that I don't think made the final cut. Again, it's something we hear a lot, and again, something I think we really do want to work on at some point. Yeah, like being able to snap objects to other objects, or I guess maybe in this case you're asking more for points to points, which I think we do support. So if you go into the edit menu, you'll find like a snapping toggle. So there's snapping to points and also snapping to surfaces. So play about with that. See if that gives you some power there. But yeah, we're also thinking and doing some prototypes around snapping.
Great. All right. Well, there's some other questions in there that we can continue answering offline. There's also going to be a table, a Gravity Sketch team table in the Wander Around session. So if you have more questions, feel free to go there. We also have our Discord channel. We're going to post it here on the chat. You always have access to the product team through there. So do join and do ask questions and do push us into kind of like, developing things that will help you. As we mentioned, we're always listening, but we're always also trying to figure out how to make all of these features and all of these kind of like requests in the Gravity Sketch way, in a way that will be really intuitive for you guys. All right. Well, thank you so much, Daniel, Will, Charlotte, and yeah, do join us at the Gravity Sketch table in the Wander Around session.